part of the reason people don't think that Arsenal will win the league, not just because Liverpool is so good, but because they think Arteta is not good enough to get them over the line.
But that's fair. Well, Dan, that's why we have conversations.
He asked that question, Lawless. He said,
that's why we have the conversations.
Yeah,
and I think go on.
Yeah. No, I was going to say on the who else can thing. I mean, the thing is, when they got Arteta, I don't remember hearing a single person that was going when they wanted Emery out, and it was who you going to get. People was going, Arteta, let's go get Pep's number 2. Go and get this guy. We need him. Like, they went and got him, and he's done objectively a good job. But at some point, when you've got the team that they've got and these young players and Saka and all of that still in their prime, you've got to give someone else a chance. Like with England, with Gareth Southgate. Gareth Southgate done probably the best job since, Alf Ramsey winning the World Cup. So it was time. He had his chance, didn't do it. Time to give someone else a turn with these players. And I think that's what they should do.
Yeah. And that's why we ask the questions. I'm so glad Staffy said what he said. This actually brightened up my day. My questions are not about defending anyone. That's true. My questions are not ever about defending any one person's club. It's only people that lack critical thinking skills, critical analysis, layered thinking. Well, you're only saying that to defend Arsenal. No, I'm trying to delve deeper into how you think and feel. I could put the words in your mouth. That would probably upset people a lot more. And that's what I'm not hearing from a lot of individuals. So what I'm hearing from you, Lawless, is you don't necessarily think the Liverpool squad's better than Arsenal's. You just think it's the managers.
Well, I think that that's a part of it. I think that's a part of it. Is listen, the squad, when you look at if they get Isak, if you went player for player, right, you're probably giving it to Liverpool. Liverpool probably edge it. But it's not always about, well, this team on paper has more starters in combined 11 than this team. There's all those intangibles throughout the season. And I think the fact that Arteta had his best chance, like 3 seasons in a row, he got 3 chances. That first season, he had a very good chance winning. That second season was the best chance he probably had. Although the third season, you probably look at last season with the Man City drop-off. Like, he had those chances. And now, because Liverpool have gotten so much better, you just give him a free ride, whatever. Like, okay, you don't have to win the league now because look how great they are. And in Man City, the following season, they could do a madness in the window. And then we go, well, look, Liverpool, they've got Isak and Man City. So do you know what? I'll take a job for life. Like, there's some times where you have to say, can we do anything else? Is it about just keep throwing money at the same manager? Or can we try another manager? Should we go for another up and coming, Pep's current number 2, whatever? Or should we try to plan for the next big manager that we can go and try to get in? Right, you can go and I just think they need to, if they're smart, rather than just be so passive and go, well, they're all better. So
I understand that.
One second there. Yeah. They're gonna listen. At the end of the day, the question that you asked there was based on our opinions as fans. Let's not forget that every signing Arsenal make, they think they're making the best decision. They're making the best decision for them, the best signings for them. When you look at how many players they added now with Gyökeres, that's 6, right? That's more than what Liverpool added. And they believe these are very, very good players for them. So they're not sitting here thinking, you know what, we made 6 signings, but this Liverpool team is going to be scared. They're not thinking that. They're thinking, you know what, we are a very good team last season. We added a top striker. We added a winger in Madueke, who's Premier League proven, who's going to help us on the right, on the left, or whatever we want to do with him. We added a top midfielder, Euros winner in Zubamendi. We added an upcoming talent in Mosquera in centre back to fill in for Gabriel and Saliba. We added Norgard, who is a lot younger than what's his name, who left, Jorginho, a lot more legs, Premier League proven, leader, captain of Brentford before he joined here. And they're going to be like, yeah, we added, I mean, who cares about Kepa, but we added depth to the goalkeeper. They look at these signings, they think, I promise you, if you sit them with them right now, when you ask them, do you genuinely think you can go and win the league next season? They will say yes anyways, because they're not going to say no, but I actually do think they mean it. So the decision is not going to be made based on what does Staffy think, what does Lawless think, what does Terry think, because we're the fans at the end of the day. They generally believe that they are good enough to win the league. So if they don't win the league next season, that decision should be taken based on that, because they're going to look at their recruitment. Did they like their recruitment? Yes. If they thought the recruitment was good, so why didn't Arteta win with them? And the decision is going to be made based on that. Unless they want to concede and say, you know what, we probably didn't make the best signings last summer. We let our manager down. Then we're going to keep him one more year, and we're going to do better additions. It's one to do those two paths, and you got to pick one. But it's based on that. It's not based on our opinions.
Someone has to take responsibility.
I totally understand that. And there are people in the comments saying, Terry, why don't you think that Arteta can be replaced? Well, it means you haven't watched enough of my content. I've said for the last 2 seasons that I'm judging him based on his the trophies that he wins. I think it would not be crazy to replace him. They're not going to replace him now, but it wouldn't have been crazy at the end of the season to go out there into the market and try and find a better manager. And there are certainly managers out there that exist. And it's interesting because 6 months ago, people would have said Allegri, not Allegri, people would have said Inzaghi, and then he gets battered in the Champions League final. So suddenly, no, he isn't a good manager anymore. That kind of thought process is also redundant, in my opinion, because look how good Enrique is. But if you'd have turned around and said he was going to get battered 3-0 in a final by Chelsea, they've all gone, no chance. It wasn't quite as bad as what Inter Milan went through, but it bloody could have been if they'd have taken a few more chances, Chelsea, that wouldn't have suddenly made Luis Enrique and PSG a bad team. And I think that, you've always got to look at those things. Equally, I make Liverpool the favourites, and I think there's a little bit of distance between them. But Arsenal can still recruit more this summer. Eze, Rodrigo as an example, that bridges the gap. I think they've got to push them to the absolute max. And do I think Arsenal can win the league? The answer is yes. Even though Liverpool are the favourites. And this is where I think it just comes down to having grown-up conversations and not always sort of surface level, key stage one, Sky Sports, Talk Sport kind of opinions, which is just Liverpool going to win the league. So let's talk about nothing else in terms of the title race. That's crazy because I think Arsenal and City can both still win the league.
Well, let's not rule out Chelsea as well.
Chelsea, I think, are going to be very good next year as well. And the one thing I'd say for Liverpool, I make them the favourites. I praise a lot of what they're doing. But there's also, for the first time in a while, a lot of pressure on them. They've never defended a Premier League title. They have spent a lot of money, and we always know there comes pressure with spending money. It's a different type of pressure. You become a massive target for everyone that plays you because there's now there's a massive notch to put on the bedpost. Should you beat this? I mean, imagine, and this is what I say to Arsenal fans about embracing the challenge and not giving up. Because if you give up, your players will give up. And this is where support comes in. And this is where I think blind faith plays an important part in sport. There are times I've seen finals in tennis where a player is 2 sets down and on a match point, I've seen them turn it round and win the fucking tournament. Now imagine if the supporters and the family and friends didn't have blind faith in that play. I remember watching Andy Murray once. He was at the 5th round of Wimbledon. He was 2 sets down. He was, I think, 6-2 down, 5-2 down in a set, had 2 match points against him. And I remember that entire crowd, right? An element of blind faith because 99% of people are going, fuck, it's over. Got up, cheered, supported him. He won the next point. He basically went on to barely lose a game, went on to win that match. I don't think he won Wimbledon that year. But, we actually saw a final of the French Open very similar. There are times where you just got to get behind your team. No matter what you think will happen, you just got to get behind and encourage them. And imagine the accolade. Imagine the achievement of actually beating this Liverpool team this season to that title after the investment, after everybody has said they're going to be champions. That should be motivating to Arsenal. That should be motivating to Man City and to Chelsea. It shouldn't be something that they see as a kind of a rock around their waist. But on all of that, I've got a few super chats to do on it first. Comments. Maradon says, Terry, so Liverpool should have kept Brendan Rodgers then. No one said that. No one said that at all. Brendan Rodgers absolutely fell off, and I got why you moved on from him and you went and got Jurgen Klopp. And a lot of you wanted Jurgen Klopp, and he improved your team. And I think Arsenal fans who want a new manager to go to the next level, I'm not against what they say. I don't think it's wrong to think that. What I do think is wrong is to say that your squad isn't good enough, say that your team isn't good enough to win the league regardless, and then in your analysis, blame the manager completely. I think it's flawed. I think it's shallow, and I think it needs more depth. That's all I'm saying. Every opinion's okay, but
Arteta has his fingerprints on this team, though. So when you say as well the team isn't good enough, he's partly responsible for that team. If you're saying the team ain't good enough,
no, I totally agree. I totally agree. But these conversations need nuance, and it's not just as simple as if the squad, for instance, when Edu was here. Even people like Dan Potts, consistently saying we don't buy good enough. The board do a bad job. In that regard, there's an argument to go, well, sacking the manager isn't going to help very much if the recruitment's still bad. Man United are proof of that. We've had world-class managers, elite level managers, young managers, red managers. We've had all the types. But whilst the recruitment and the structure was bad, we never really got any better for a prolonged period of time. Liverpool Football Club, when they weren't being run particularly well, it didn't matter who their manager was, and they signed loads of great players. This myth that Gerrard never played with good players and didn't have good teams is a fucking lie. They just didn't have the infrastructure that kept them moving in the right direction. Look at City. City have got Pep. Look at their campaign last year after 2 summers of bad recruitment. So Pep didn't become a bad manager last year.
Yeah.
Didn't have the tools to make his system work. And I just look at it and go, this is where it needs a nuanced conversation. It doesn't mean that I'm saying Arteta doesn't deserve any blame. He shouldn't be sacked. He shouldn't be ridiculed. Of course he should. I do that myself. I'm just really bored of this idea that Arsenal are going to be fixed by just one thing. Those same people said, give us a striker, we'll win the league. And now saying we need 7 players. Things change, right? There's nuance. There's new conversations to be had. It's important.
But hold on. So now I gotta defend myself here. Not me just personally, me as an idea, because there's a lot of people that say similar things to me.
The idea.
When I sit here, you understand what I mean by this, Lawless, because I don't want this guy to send me another certificate. I don't give a shit about these certificates. When we sit here and sometimes we talk about the recruitments, and you're like, no, but people are overdoing it. They're just hating us as Arsenal. And I'm like, you know what? I don't really like this signing. Then it gets looked at as an agenda. But then you sit here and say, oh, I don't want people to just talk about Arsenal being the fix when it only comes to Arteta. I actually spent more time this summer talking about recruitment, talking about players being signed. And honestly, I don't even remember the last time I talked about Arteta. But then equally, when we do that, people like me who do that, because I'm not saying I'm not an innovator. There's a lot of people that talk about signings. People get criticized saying, oh, you're only hitting on this signing because it's Arsenal. This signing is good. This signing is going to bang. You've got to be one of the two. You either want me to sit here and just make an agenda about a manager, be like, no matter what happens, I'm just judging the manager. I don't care how good the team is. I'm just judging the manager. Or I can sit here and analyze and say, I don't like some of these signings, but you can't accuse me of hating. It has to be one of the two.
So for me, Staffy, I've not mentioned anything you've said. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking in generals. So
that's
I'm
what
not
I said
saying,
as an idea.
And I agree, but that's where conversations are important. I think the YouTube world and podcasting has lost this. I think there's too much repetition. People are now creating too many echo chambers, and everything's about their idea being heard as opposed to explaining their idea, conceding the bad parts, agreeing to calling out other people's bad parts, because no one knows everything. I certainly don't think I know everything. I believe my opinions are right. Oh, that's arrogant. No, it isn't. Who would ever give an opinion that they don't believe is right? Why would you ever say it if you didn't think it was right? And I believe that you're correct in this. I absolutely agree with you. It's about having the nuance. Where I get confused is when I'll hear people say the recruitment isn't good enough. The board have let Arteta down. I go, okay, that's a fair comment to make. And then the season starts, they forget that, and it's all about the manager. Where have I seen this before? Man United. People like yourself have been massively critical of Ineos. We haven't done enough. We haven't had a good enough summer. We haven't recruited enough. You will probably be balanced with it next year, but there'll be some that will. And how do I know this? I've been doing this job 10 years. As soon as the football starts, you'll get, but Ineos don't pick the team. Ineos don't make the subs. Ineos don't do this. And I'm not saying you can't and shouldn't criticize the manager, but the whole summer is about the board and Ineos or Edu and now Berta. Are they doing a good enough job? Are they doing enough to recruit? As soon as the summer ends, it's all just coaching, just management. And we forget what's gone before it. And I'm actually advocating for exactly what you were saying. Now, what that doesn't mean that if you I don't know, you might rate Ekitike. If you then sign for Arsenal and you were talking about how bad it is, I might jokingly say, come on, man, it sounds like you're just hating because he's gone to Arsenal. That's a fundamentally different conversation. I want people on podcasts, not just mine, but in this whole industry that we have built and that we're in, to have those types of conversations. And what I'm noticing more and more watching other people's content, you start asking people questions about what they think. There seems to be this arrogance and this anger to have to explain themselves. That for me is what I think. That's where I start to smell an agenda as opposed to honest opinions, because we're all here to say what we think. I've got no qualm with being challenged about why I think what I think. I actually love being asked about why I think things. I actually think that's where the gold is. I think that's where I think that's where what the viewers love listening to, unless you're only there to hate on one particular person or push a certain agenda or laugh at someone, then you want it to be very shallow. You want it to be very basic. You want it to be very clean cut, low hanging fruit, because it's just to push a particular agenda. So I agree with you 100% in what you've said, Staffy. I think it's the right way to do it. 100%.
On the structure thing, just quickly, you know, I've as we're talking about nuance and things, I've just been thinking about this recently. Is that in the short term, or maybe even long term, there are some managers I think that are better working under poorer structures, right? And I've just had this thought about when I look at Moyes, and overall, I think we should have been trying to move on from Moyes and build a proper structure. In reality, Sullivan is never going to do that. It's not going to happen under him. So he was probably the best guy to work in the poor structure we had. So, you know, there is a thought process of, well, you know, there's no point changing manager until we get a better structure. But then you think, well, maybe there's someone that's better placed to work under a poor structure. So that's something that I think to consider.
I hear that.